Hey, what's going on, folks? This your boy New Jack coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina. March Madness is finally here. Today, I'm gonna give y'all the rundown of my NCAA March Madness tournament bracket. I'm gonna give y'all who I believe is gonna make it to the Sweet 16, all the way to the Final Four in the NCAA National Championship in basketball. I'm going to go ahead and start it off who I believe is going to make it all the way to the Sweet 16. Starting with the South region. My four teams that I believe is going to make it to the Sweet 16 are Florida, UCLA, Syracuse, and Kansas. So I have playing in the Sweet 16 in the South region. I have Florida versus UCLA, and I have Kansas versus Syracuse for the Sweet 16. And now, let's look at the South region. The four teams I have making it to the Sweet 16 are Arizona, San Diego State, Oregon, and Creighton. My Sweet 16 matchups out of the South region are Arizona versus San Diego State, Oregon versus Creighton are the matchups I have out of the South region. And now, let's look at the Midwest region. My four teams making it to the Sweet 16 out of the Midwest region are Wichita State, Louisville, Texas, and Duke. My Midwest region matchups are Wichita State versus Louisville, Texas versus Duke out of the Midwest region. And now, let's look at the last region, the East region. The teams that I believe that's going to make it to the Sweet 16. My four teams are Virginia, Michigan State, Villanova, and Iowa State are the four teams I have making it to the Sweet 16. My matchups are Virginia versus Michigan State, Villanova versus Iowa State out of the East region. And now, let's look at my Sweet 16 matchups, starting with the South region. Florida versus UCLA. I have Florida defeating UCLA. Kansas versus Syracuse. I have Kansas winning. Now, if Joel Embiid is back healthy and playing, I have Kansas defeating Syracuse. But if Joel Embiid is not playing in that game, it's a toss-up. But I still believe that my Kansas Jayhawks will come out victorious against Syracuse. Staying in the South region, my two Elite Eight teams are Florida and Kansas. Florida versus Kansas. Whew. I believe it's gonna be a good game. And for my Jayhawk fans, forgive me what I'm about to say. I have Florida defeating Kansas. Yes, I said it. Because I don't believe that Joel Embiid is going to be 100%. And with Joel Embiid not being 100%, I don't see Kansas defeating Florida. But that might change. That might change. But for right now, since Joel Embiid is not 100%, I don't see Kansas defeating Florida in the Elite Eight. So, my first Final Four team is the Florida Gators. Florida is a good team. They played good all year. And they won the SEC tournament. And they're a team to watch in this year's NCAA March Madness tournament. So Florida is one of the teams I have making it all the way to the Final Four. And now, going to the West Side region. My Sweet 16 matchups, starting with Arizona versus San Diego State. I have Arizona defeating San Diego State. Oregon versus Creighton. I have Oregon defeating Creighton. So, my two Elite Eight teams playing out of the West region are Arizona versus Oregon. And I will say this. I believe Oregon is going to upset Arizona. Yes, I said it. I believe Oregon will win this game against Arizona. So, my second Final Four team are the Oregon Ducks. I believe they will defeat the Arizona Wildcats in the Elite Eight out of the West region. And now, moving right along to the Midwest region. My first Sweet 16 matchup, is all I can say. Wichita State versus Louisville. As y'all know, these two teams saw each other last year in the Final Four. And we all know that Louisville won it all last year. By these two teams seeing each other again, I will say this. Louisville will defeat Wichita State again this year as they did last year in the Final Four. So I have Louisville defeating Wichita State. Y'all heard it from me. Then you have Texas versus Duke. And I hate to say this, for the ones that watch me know I can't stand Duke. But I have Duke defeating Texas. That's all I'm going to say on that. Moving right along to the Elite Eight out of the Midwest region. So I have Louisville versus Duke out of the Midwest region playing in Elite Eight. And of course, I have Louisville defeating Duke in Elite Eight out of the Midwest region. So my third team making it all the way to the Final Four is the Louisville Cardinals. And now, moving back to the East Side. My Sweet 16 matchups out of the East region. Virginia versus Michigan State. And I will say this. I believe Michigan State will defeat Virginia. Villanova versus Iowa State. I have Iowa State defeating Villanova. So my two teams out of the East region playing in the Elite Eight are Michigan State and Iowa State. Michigan State versus Iowa State. I have Michigan State defeating Iowa State. So my fourth team making it all the way to the Final Four are the Michigan State Spartans. So my Final Four bracket looks like this. For the first game, Florida versus Michigan State. I have Florida defeating Michigan State. For the second game, Louisville versus Oregon. I have Louisville defeating Oregon. So, for my national championship game, I have Florida versus Louisville, which should be a pretty interesting game. For the national championship game, Florida versus Louisville, I'm going to tell y'all who's going to win this game. I have the Florida Gators defeating the Louisville Cardinals for the national championship. So, your 2014 NCAA March Madness national champions are the Florida Gators. So there you have it, folks. I hope y'all enjoyed this. This is New Jet TV signing off. Go Jayhawks. I will be rooting for y'all. Hopefully the Kansas Jayhawks do good and does well in the tournament. But without Joel Embiid being 100%, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough ride. But we shall see. But I'm going to go ahead and end this video. Y'all enjoy the March Madness tournament. Love, peace, and joy. Y'all take care. And make it hot.